We're about ready to start here. Cole, you with me?
Yeah, sorry, I was grabbing my puppy, but I'm right here.
All right.
Okay.
So we got OEL Week 3 Gold Plat and Diamond Power Rankings today. Uh, we're hosted by me, Princeton, and Cole today. Say hello, Cole.
Hello, friends, and I'm really excited to run these down. There's a little bit of different changes to these power rankings this time around, but I'm still excited to announce these, and it's going to be a little bit faster than last time. So you're welcome.
I try to speed things up a little bit here. So why don't we get started right away?
All right, and to start off with the gold and platinum power rankings, we do start with number 9, which is going to be consistent with our last week ranking. It's going to be Team Aquila. Now, Team Aquila, in a few ways, has shown that they can maybe keep up, but this team needs to find an answer, and they need to find it fast. Okay, they're falling way too far behind, and they're looking like they're not going to make playoffs. They look like they have okay laning phases, but then they just get decimated outside of lane. That's why they're going to be at number 9. Aquila just does not have the answer for these top teams.
Um, yeah, we see that a lot reflects in the stats. We do want to talk about their mid laner, Hollow and Ari, being the most consistent player on the team overall.
Yeah, Holo and Ari is definitely their best player, definitely the key player of this team. If you're going to look to get anybody ahead, or if you're going to look to target anybody, you're going to want to look at this Holo and Ari player in the mid lane. Definitely their best player. Okay, now moving on to number 8, we have Predictive Gaming. Predictive Gaming, same spot as they were. Very feast or famine team. They've had some really good showings against great teams, but they just do not know how to close it out. But the thing that's interesting about them is that they've also had awful showings versus bad teams. So, with these teams being all like this, I've heard Predictive Gaming is supposed to be very good and they will climb up to the top 3, but as of right now, we cannot see it from our standpoint.
Yes, and once again, we're going to talk about the key player again for this team, which is going to be Best Mustache, coming in as the AD carry.
Yeah, so this is actually going to be a pretty big trend on this on the tier lists, or on this power ranking throughout the key players, is that you're going to see a lot of 80 carries in here, and I don't know if it's because they're just ridiculously above the talent of what we're usually seeing, or if this 80 carry position is just broken.
One thing I do have to say is, I mean, um, definitely in a lot of these minor leagues or like lower leagues, we see like Gold Plat or like even like Dual Diamond. AD carry has the most agency when you go towards 30-minute, 35-minute games, and while yes, teams can execute early games really well and look to close out games fast. I think um, it in kind of like the lower elo you go, the longer the games tend to go because it's harder for teams to find ways to close out the game against their opposition. Because they're making more mistakes, and then the enemy team has more options to kind of come back from the game, so that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe it's just because these 80 carries are just knowing how to put out that consistent damage, knowing how to position in these team fights. Maybe these players are just a little bit better than what we think they would be, especially in a gold plat league. Maybe they're just a little bit better than we think they would be. Maybe they can move on to bigger leagues in the future. Maybe they can even climb better in solo queue. But we digress. On to number 7. Number 7 is going to be Right Swipe Kings. Now, Right Swipe Kings is a decent overall team. The problem is that they're crippled by a lack of pure talent in all of their lanes. Now, they have really solid players in most lanes, but it just knows they have good players, but the lane that everyone knows either wins or loses their games for them is going to be their bot lane. One True God is a backpack player and is their main win condition. The top side in the middle lane, they're not as good as One True God. And One True God definitely shows that he has the carry potential to be able to take this team to the next level. Now, whether he'll be able to do it on his own or if he'll start getting some help from his solo lanes, that's another story.
Right. We also have to talk about their support player Nefix, also being having except exceptionally good stats compared to the rest of the team. Their bot lane does anyway. So I definitely think the bot lane's the core backbone of this team. Not just the AD carry, but the support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And having a strong lane in that bot lane definitely helps One True God get to where he needs to be. Uh, Moving on. At number 6, we have Literal Monkeys. Now, Literal Monkeys is an odd case. Some games they will look like they can win every single game that they play, but then you have other games where they have no chance at all. Now, they've beaten a few teams above them, but the reason why we're putting them at number 6 this time around is because of their inconsistency. Once they become consistent, they're going to be able to make the climb, and I believe that.
Right. And again, we're gonna look for our key player for this team. It's gonna be Pakapal in the jungle. Um, Definitely showing what it means to not throw the team on his back, but to be a consistent player overall.
Yeah, and he loves to play pretty much any champion that they like to put on the Sejuani, whether it be the Sejuani, Jarvan, it doesn't matter. He will play it for them and he'll make it work. Now, at number 5, we have in the middle of the pack, Stand and Fight Gaming. Stand and Fight are basically the perfect middle of the pack team. They have a lot of potential to make it to the top, but just have big struggles against teams above them. They can't beat these teams that are above them, but they can destroy the teams below them. And that's what makes them a really good middle of the pack team. Think something like Echo Fox or maybe even a team like FlyQuest. Definitely looking really strong in the middle of the pack, but as far as up top, they don't have that same strength.
Right. Definitely agree. Just it reflects in some of their past games. And we're going to be talking again about the key player on this team is going to be Kaiki. I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's their jungler. Uh,
Yeah, so Kaiki is, let's just say he's their carry player. They really have a heavy focus of getting their mid and jungle ahead, which in turn kind of sacrifices their bot lane pressure, which they don't really play through their bot lane. They like to play through that jungle mid. Echoing Melody is also a very good player. So, this team, if they continue to play the way they are, if they continue to master how they're playing, I don't think any other team plays like them in this league. So we'll see if it works out.
Want to add another
Now,
point about the jungle mid duo. Their mid laner, Echoing Melody, actually is tied for the most kills in the league. Not the highest KDA, but the most kills overall.
good factoid there. And like I said, they like to get that mid layer ahead. Now, at number 4, we have Run It Back Gaming. Run It Back, same teams, my bad. Now, Run It Back have shown some very strong performances, but overall have had a hard time defeating the teams on top above them. They seem like, after dropping a game to Literal Monkeys, they could possibly be lower than what we rank them. But the bot lane is just way too good for me to rate them any lower than what they are. They keep up with the top teams as far as in the bot lane. Where they start to struggle is whenever they start getting out of laning phase. And unfortunately, that's a problem that a lot of these teams below our top 3 seem to have.
Um, yeah. And again, going back to the key players for this team, we're going to be looking at Delightful and Coach Kirk, which is going to be a very strong bot lane duo.
Yeah, absolutely. And they look to play through that bot lane a little bit. It's just once they get out of the landing phases, once they start have to actually relying on their macro, it seems like they just pretty much fall behind, and really it comes down to this bot lane just being better in lane over the teams below them. Okay, now at number 3, we have Omega Gaming Delta. And you're going to notice this was our team from first place. Was a little bit controversial that we put them up there last week, but this week we got them at number 3. Still in the top 3, still looking solid, but definitely having some woes this week. They were looking strong week 1 and week 2, but they fell down quite a bit in our week 3.
Mm,
A lot of their wins have come from our bottom line teams, and they've only been truly tested once. Now, whenever they got tested, they lost. They did have a roster swap recently. They moved their top laner, or their starting top laner, to sub and brought in a new top laner. But as far as what this team is good at and what makes them our number 3 team, they've been definitely showing out as far as their solo lanes have gone. And also, that bot lane is a sleeper, sleeper, sleeper. If they have Eric the Mediocre and Viva La Vendetta in the bot lane, expect them to beat you. Expect them to destroy the lane. If not destroy the lane, destroy the mid game, destroy the late game. Viva is definitely the key player of this team, and mostly because of the carry potential that he has, especially on his Kaisa pick.
right. There's one thing I want to talk about this team is that they do have solid solo laners that can kind of pick up leads for themselves. Like to play really strong, Rambo style champions, like these 1v5 kind of champs. They have some roster swaps in the top lane recently, which I think is definitely going to be hurting them in these upcoming weeks. Their mid laner B extends, also known as Mfang, is also has like a inconsistent record. He shows up for most of the games, but he's not always there. Um, but their bot lane, that they're late scaling with Viva, and just the plays that the support player Eric can make is ridiculous. So I definitely think that while they do have these strong solo lanes, their bot lane should definitely be getting the MVP and key players for this lineup. Okay, Cole actually has to be right back for a second, so I'm going to be finishing up here, I believe, for second place and first place. So second place, beating out Omega Delta is going to be Aaron and the boys with the best picture of all time. Um, so the main strengths from this team, we're going to be they did inherit a 0-2 record at the beginning of the league after taking, I believe it was Lotus Staff's or Team Lotus Staff's place. But ever since then, they've gone undefeated 4-0 with an overall record of 4-2. But like I said, those first two losses were not technically theirs. Um, the key player for this team is going to be Adjustment. He's a heavy carry, um, and it kind of, because they always have this rock in the ball lane of Adjustment. Strong AD carry, good mechanics, good positioning, doesn't die a lot, and is able to, um, despite not dying a lot and not like being in rough situations all the time where he's subject to taking a lot of damage, he's still able to dish out a lot of damage in the team fights, which makes him a hard carry. And they also focus, because of that, because they have this rock in the bot lane, they can kind of focus on their top laner, who also likes to play carry style top laners as well. And I'd expect this team overall to stay at least in the top 3 for the rest of the season. They have looked really dominant these past 2 weeks that they've been playing, and I don't really expect them to fall off that much.
Yeah, absolutely. And watching Aaron and the boys, it's definitely been a treat. It's not always the easiest situation to be able to take over on a team who goes 0-2 and then start to make the comeback. But this team has gone undefeated, as you said. And like you said, Adjustment is just an insane player. Expect this guy to get played through a lot, and expect to see that top laner on carry picks. Now, at the ultimate number 1 spot, this team has been asking for PR all week, and they're finally getting it. It's going to be Asura. Now, the reason why Asura is going to be starting to get their number 1 spot is because they've had really solid showings in all of their games. They look solid from top to bot. Now, the top lane is a little bit of their weak spot, but if you go from that down on, their team looks insane. Now, one of the big moves that I saw that they made was they dropped 69er, which I don't agree with. I thought that he was a really solid support. Don't know what's going on there, but that bot lane, the 80 carry in that bot lane, Civil, is definitely looking like a front runner for MVP. He's doing everything that he can to keep this team in the game. And if they ever fall behind, expect him to get a lot of resources so that he can carry his team out.
right? And Asura is actually going to be one of the teams playing in our match of the week for Gold Plat coming up tomorrow. It's going to be our match of the week is going to be Asura versus Omega Gaming Delta. So we're going to have the first place team versus the third place team. And I think it's going to be very telling to see that matchup on stream. We'll get to see Omega Gaming's kind of their roster kinks work out, and we're gonna see how Omega Gaming's bot lane, their late game scaler and Viva, and their insane support in Eric, how they go up against Asura's bot lane and their MVP in Civil. So that's definitely going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, matchup of the week. As far as in the game, expect to see Viva and Civil go at it a lot, but I'm gonna highlight the junglers in this matchup. Now, even though these two players are not the carry players, you've seen Reich go on to Skarner a few times, and you've definitely seen Che Young, the jungler for Tarzan Klid Ning is his name, but Che Young is what his name is in the Discord. Expect to see these two make the difference for their laners. It depends on what they do. It depends on how well they play and how much they can get their lanes ahead.
All right. So are we gonna move on to the D plus rankings right away?
If you would like to, my friend.
All right. So let's go ahead and get this box set back up. No peeking. Let me stop that.
No peeking, everybody. Gotta stay clean, gotta stay pure. There's in-game spoilers under there.
Right. End game spoilers. I just got that.
This guy.
All right.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Marcus.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. So, starting off our Diamond Plus Omega Esports League PR this week is going to be number 8, Roman Esports. They're staying the same. They're not moving up. So the thing with this team is they need something to happen. They need something to change. They need to make roster changes or something. They have the 5 worst KDAs in the league. In every single lane, everything is falling apart. Someone needs to take up for this team. Somebody needs to be that star potential player, and they really just do not have that.
Right. It's not the same case where you look at some of the lower tier teams in Gold Plat and you can pick out one or two players and say, these are the star players on this team. They're kind of the rock that the team needs to play around. When you look at this lineup, at least so far, what they have shown, you don't really see that rock as a single player in this lineup yet. So
Absolutely. And like I said, things need to change for this team or else they're going to stay in the bottom. They're not going to be able to beat any of the teams above them. And basically they haven't won a game this whole entire season. Moving on to number 7, we have Neuroshock Gaming. Now, Neuroshock, the thing about them is that they pulled off some crazy things in their week 3, but the problem is that they only made that comp work once. They tried it again, had to use different variables, and it didn't work out. Now, the biggest takeaway from week 3 was that they were using a new AD carry. I did like this guy. However, they're putting Evil Dragful on support champions. I don't agree with that. I think Evil Dragful needs to be on some top carry champions. You can't be putting this guy on Lulu every game. You can't be putting him on Karma every game. Give this man a Jace. Give this man a Cassidon. Whatever you have to give this man, give him something that can win you the game because he is going to take you to the promised land.
I'm definitely gonna agree with you. I've seen Evil Dragful's Jace firsthand, and it's terrifying to play against. I do want to say that their jungler likes to play not supportive style, but more utility style champions. Not the big carries in the jungle. So I think with that in mind and some strong mid lane picks, and they play a mid jungle centric kind of team, that could really boost their chances of winning in some of these new games. Um, I think one thing to say about the team is I really don't think that they're that bad. I think that when they get ahead, they maybe get too cocky, or maybe it kind of goes to their heads, and they start to kind of sandbag their gameplay a little bit, not play as well as normal. Um, so I think that's really a major problem for them.
Yeah, major tilt issue. We can't be having that. Moving on to number 6, we have Foxhound Gaming or Foxhound Operations. My bad. So Foxhound is a really interesting case this week. They gave the Now a pretty big run for their money. If you were around to see those games that were on stream, it actually looked like they were going to make the comeback against the Now, which you'll see them later on, a little bit later on in this list, but you'll see them. The Now is a very strong team in this league, and for Foxhound Operations to show some life against them, that's really good. They struggled in the early game. Their early game struggles still persist. They're not that good in lane, but be sure to check out Kakarot Goku whenever you have the chance to. This guy is definitely a very good player, and he looks to get the bit of carry out of the mid lane, and he is somebody that I think is a major component to this team.
Let's not just talk about the mid lane. We gotta talk about their 80 carry player and the best meme and second best meme in OEL, Thought Dog, the boy. Can I get a Thought Dog in chat?
Hot dog,
I need a
baby.
Thought Dog in chat. Someone, please. All right.
All right, nobody gonna support the thought dog movement, but yeah, this team has the chance to make the come up, and they're only 3-3 right now, so they still have the chance to get into the money. So let's see it, Foxhound. You guys have a chance to make it back. Let's do it. Now, at number 5, we have Ozone Esports. The biggest thing about this team is that their solo laners are just excellent. I think that Ozone has some of the best, is sporting some of the best solo laners in this league. But, you know, as we see whenever you watch these games or whenever you look at the gold charts, they just have monkey macro. The monkey levels of macro are showing, and they need to get that macro more solid.
Right. I mean, and that's a big thing. Just overall for your gameplay. You have a strong early game, you have strong solo laners. That means that your bot lane doesn't need you can provide more attention to your bot lane, and it gives you a kind of clear path for where to go into the middle lane game. Normally, teams that have strong solo laners are dominant because it opens up a lot of the map for to just be taken and ran around by the jungler, and for their bot lane to get a lead off of just their solo laners being really strong, right? So the bot lane doesn't have to generate a lead by themselves. Um, but if the macro kind of goes all over the place in the middle late game, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and the thing about this team is that they have a lot of close games where they just throw leads. They can fix that. That is something that's fixable. Where you can't have a fix is whenever everybody is struggling to do anything. But this isn't that team, and I think that Ozone is going to be a pretty scary team once they figure out how to get their macro game going. But other than that, they look like a pretty strong team. I'm excited to see where they go. Okay, and moving on to our number 4 team, you have Drexel D1. Now, Drexel is Drexel is rising from our last week rank because of how much stronger they look as a team. They finish out this week with 2-0. They look a lot stronger than they did in our first and second week. Now, I'm looking for them to build up on this, and now the more that this team gets together, the more cohesion they show, the better they're going to get, the more they're going to look to break into that top 3 and maybe take over their D2 team. Who knows? Their D2 team looks pretty good as well.
I think the race between this fourth place team and this third place team are very close, in my opinion at least.
Oh yeah, and let's just move on to our third team, Drexel. Very good team, definitely going to make the climb up once they start getting more cohesion. But this third place team, and this might be a little bit controversial for some of you, but the Now is our third place team. And the reason why they're now sitting at third place is because they dropped the game. Let's see. They dropped the game to Drexel D2. Now, this team is a potential top 2 team, But after losing to Drexel, which you'll see later on in this list, probably, I don't know, very soon. The biggest thing about this team and the reason why they are so highly regarded and why they're so freaking scary is because their jungler is an all-star. This guy is probably best jungler in the league, hands down. I'm willing to make that hot take. This guy, just keep your eyes on him. He makes good plays. His Jarvan looks clean. Pretty much every single champion that he plays is just ridiculously clean. And then also, you have to mention Treyish. Treyish is I don't know, he's just like the best player in this league. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I think early runnings right now, MVP vote, he's got it. Treyish is popping off literally almost every single game. Now they lost one game to Drexel and he didn't look as good, but expect this guy to pop off like every single game. He has been doing it since day one. And if they come back, if they start making a few more, start getting a few more of these wins, and maybe getting their solo lanes a little bit better, maybe getting their top laner and their mid laner a little bit more going, because the top laner is a tank player, the mid laner is a control mage player. Maybe if they start getting those two going, expect them to rise to the top, because this team needs to play behind Trash. This dude is like double lift in this league. There is no competition in the bot lane. Okay, and moving on to number 2, we have Drexel D2. Okay, so Drexel D2 is an interesting team. We did not expect them to do this well coming into this league, and that's just out of a pit of honesty. We expected D1 to be the world beaters, to be the excellent team, but this D2 team, their second team, their sister team, is definitely making a stand for who is the best Drexel team. And shout out to Drexel University for picking these guys up, because they picked up a fairly good team. They found themselves in that third place, top 3 range. But as soon as they started getting more wins, they're 6-0 right now in the standings. They move up another rank. They're actually going to be our second best team, but our first best team stays consistent, and that's going to be Recon 5. Now, they're going to retain this position because of how strong they looked during their last week's play. There were some weaknesses that were revealed out of Recon 5, but definitely still looking like our top team in this league. And there's a few reasons why that is so. If you look at Recon 5, they have multiple carries in multiple lanes. Expect R5 Titan, who against a carry comp that Neuroshock ran, he was able to track out the Olaf, which was going to get funneled. He was able to track out the Olaf. He was able to make him useless. And then also you had Prussian popping off. R5I Glory pops off. Inabon pops off. This entire team has that pop off potential, and expect them to stay at top until somebody can take them down. And you know what? They might just end this league in the number 1 spot.
I do have to say about Recon 5, he hasn't shown us too much in terms of his stats in game, but the top laner it should be a monster on the Recon 5 team. So I am looking forward to seeing him play more. We're just gonna have to see in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as far as our 8 teams in the Diamond League, do not feel discouraged if you are Roman Esports, because the fixes that you can make, the way that you can coach your players back up, you guys can make your climb up. Trust me, this middle of the field is definitely up for grabs. Expect numbers, I would say about 5 to 7, probably changing up in a bit. And if you can see Roman Esports doing that as well, this bottom side of the this bottom 5, or yeah, bottom 5 of the power rankings, expect them to swap around, expect a lot of exciting games out of them. But also expect these teams to start challenging these upper teams, because now we're heading into week 4 of the OEL Diamond League. they're going to start getting a little more behind them. They're going to start be ramping up a little more and expect all of these teams to go have solid showings.
Hmm.
Okay, and that will actually do it for our power rankings. I hope you guys were a lot more happy with these, but you probably weren't. We can't make all of you happy. We apologize for not having the podcast out this week. We need to do a little more preparation for next week's. But we'll have that out as soon as we can. Podcast coming soon. Obviously, we're going to be talking about OEL. We're going to be talking about the LCS, the patch. We're going to be talking about the games. So stick around for that. Just big shout out to all of you guys for making this possible. And Marcus, you got any words?
I was gonna say what you just said, so no.
Okay, well, from me, Coil, and from my friend Marcus, we do wish you have a good night and be ready at 8 p.m. EST tomorrow so that you can watch the Gold
Oh,
Plat League.
I do have to. Sorry about that. I do have to
Oh,
mention our Diamond Week 3 match of the week. Um, for Wednesday's games, it's going to be the Now versus Drexel D1 Dragons, I believe. So that's going to be a premier game for the D Plus League on Wednesday.
very exciting. And I'm happy. I'm excited to see actually Super Izzy versus Treyish because those two players are really carry oriented and like